Hey everybody, Rhadamant here. Thank you for tuning in to the very first episode of Surviving the Aftermath, which originally streamed live on Twitch. Before I start, I should explain what to expect in this series. I'm a relatively experienced player in Surviving the Aftermath, having participated a lot in early access, so I'll be explaining the game as I play. This will be a Let's Play tutorial hybrid, where I incorporate a lot of the viewer feedback in real time. I hope you enjoy. So first things first, let me explain the game, as Sutton just hit the About command. Surviving the Aftermath is a post-apocalyptic strategic city builder where you survive against the elements like cold winters or meteor showers or radiation rain, that kind of thing. Also, onslaughts of bandits and also hostile fauna, like sandworms and enormous bears and things like that. And I'm going to allow you to vote heavily on the direction of the series. Let me also turn down the game's music just a little bit. All right. There is also something set up for Twitch integration. I don't know if it works. I tried to do some Google foo to see if the Twitch integration works. If it doesn't, we'll just result to the traditional polling methods, which I have ready. So, as promised, we are going to be on the hardest difficulty. I am not going to have the... You know what? I am going to have the tutorial messages on, just so that you can see as the tutorial progresses, but I already know how to play. I am not a newbie here. This isn't a first play through. So, the challenge. We are going to do suffering can't be avoided. Never-ending hardships, ongoing apocalypse. Frequent catastrophes. Let me slow down so I can actually read the options to you. So, the challenge here is more or less how difficult the events get thrown at you. So I'm picking the hardest. So it's, easy, normal, hard, or easy, medium, difficult. Catastrophes are things like radiation rain, winter storms, meteor showers, plagues. And I'm going to pick frequent. Environment. So plenty of fertile soil means you can do a lot of farming and water is easy to come by, etc., etc. And then I'm going to pick the planet is a barren wasteland because, masochist. As far as survivors, very, very few survivors, very scarce resources. So this, as you can see up there, gets me the 100% difficulty setting. Then we have ideology. So there's three types of ideologies here. There is the survival, industrial, and protector. And you guys voted on survival. Now let me check back on that poll, make sure that is still true, because I haven't technically closed the poll. Okay, yep. The plurality have voted for survivalist. I just paused the poll. So we're going to pick that. And what that allows you to do is there are different ways to upgrade buildings and research extra stuff. And the ideology actually allows you to unlock different sort of ways to build. So like if you picked Protector, you could get improvements to your guard towers, for instance. Whereas if you pick Survival, it changes the game, gives it a little bit of replayability, which is cool. And I'll show you when those research choices come up. Now, I am going to be raffling off the specialist here, but I'm going to choose my initial specialists. I have ones that I like. Bear with me a little bit because the 1.0 version of the game just released like an hour ago, and a lot of the menu options look different to me now than I'm familiar with. But I'm going to pick, he'll be raffled and named, but Satoshi, who is a research specialist. And then I'm going to pick a scavenger specialist. Let's go with... And the important stats here, let me go over them. Health is your health pool. Your specialists can die in combat or from radiation, etc. Their base damage, how efficient their scavenging is, how much they can move on the Overland Map, what rate they research, and how fast they recover. And as you can see, everybody has slightly different stats here. So I want my next one to be a scavenger. Maybe Domino... 150%. Yeah, I'll go with Domino or Nadia. Trying to figure out the difference. Recovery 30 and Domino recovery. Okay, yeah, they're the same. I'll go with Nadia. All right. In terms of the flag, this is of course purely aesthetic, and this is a banner that you will see in your base. We went with survivalist. I'm gonna wave around the blue flag. Maybe put it on white or gray, dark gray. Sort of neutral, allowing you to pick whether we're good or bad. Colony name. And we could random it. But it's going to be Yodaville, of course. And then colony moda. Praise be the Yoda. Alright, good enough. So here is the summary. We're going to have tutorial messages. I might turn them off if I find them annoying, but we'll start with them. And everything else is sort of on the hardest difficulty. Let's hope the map RNG is with us and I don't get map screwed. Fingers crossed, because that could happen. I'm not going to re-roll. I'll just, I'll roll with it. If the RNG sucks, it sucks. Hey, buddy. Free treat. Less survivors does not mean fewer bandits. You still get as many bandits as you don't want to have. And yes, I do know what I'm doing. So right at the start, you have this soul settler, and he is going to set up a campsite. And your campsite acts as sort of a general storage. It also will scout for you, and this will make more sense in a minute. So this is our home tile. Our home tile is a finite amount of space. It's honestly enormous. It's a finite amount of space, and anything in the Fog of War shadows we cannot use or spread into. This is the Overland Map. The Overland Map has bandits and scavenging opportunities, research opportunities, where you can deploy your specialists out to, and this will make more sense once I do it later on. So right at the start, when you start off, you have different types of soil. So around the start of the gate, you are always going to have this plot of sort of, well, not always, but you generally have sort of non-fertile soil. And I like to try to place the campsite as far back from the gate as possible, because the campsite will help scout the land for you. So if you crowd it near the gate, it can't scout as much. And we'll plop that there. And when I unpause, the settler will go forth. And let me read some of this.
Things once considered mundane are hard to find, and habitable land is no exception. A settler has finally found a spot for a new colony. With a place to call home, it is time for a new beginning. Welcome to the aftermath, survivor.
Okay, none of this had voice work like as of yesterday, so surprise to me. So this little settler will start a campsite, and the campsite you get for free. And then you do get 5 other free buildings right from the get-go that build basically instantly. So I'm going to pause it. So the way this campsite works is this campsite is general storage, but it does fill up rather quickly when you're wealthy. So you're going to need alternative storages. And then you'll also see scouted 19%. So over the course of time, slowly, the campsite will expand this bubble of known terrain. So this is what 19% looks like. And I can't exploit any resources outside of anywhere I've currently scouted. So I am given 2 tents, stockpile for wood, a food storage, and then a water collector. The water collector is going to be pretty obvious where I place that. It's going to be a dock in the water. Depending on how much water tiles is around your dock, it will determine the efficiency of the water collector. So here I get 12 water. Here I get 14. So we're going to maximize it. at 14 if we can. I generally, late game, don't use water collectors anyway. And because this is a freebie, I get that for free. I don't pay for it. Next is the storages, and generally speaking, I leave these storages pretty much campsite adjacent. I don't have them further. It could make sense to have them further out, but I'm going to leave them right next to the campsite. And then the last one is something that I have to do some analysis for. So when deciding on putting tents, your tents must be heated during winter storms, so it makes sense to cluster your tents together, but there's a catch. On the map tile, we have resources like plastic, wood, these sort of ruins here that are going to block construction. Now, the pallets of wood get cleared pretty quickly. The plastic gets cleared, but then becomes underground plastic, which you can utilize later on in the tech tree. You also have berry bushes and the like. And the other important thing to note when placing your where your initial sort of colony buildings are going to go is where there is fertile soil, because you're not going to want to plop your colonies where there is fertile soil, because there's, on the hardest difficulty, there's a very finite amount of fertile soil. It's this green stuff. Anything built outside of the green stuff and the farms will basically not produce. So as you can see, there's a tiny patches of fertile soil. And that means I'm going to actively avoid placing anything in these spots. Now, there's another consideration to make, which is pollution. Really early game, you're not going to have the ability to clean up pollution. Later on, you'll be able to shovel it, throw it into barrels, and store it or sell it, get rid of it. So you don't want to put buildings near pollution, because if you put buildings near pollution, they become irradiated, and irradiated buildings will get your people sick, and there is some health penalties for being sick for a very long time. So when I'm looking to place an initial bedroom setup, what I want is an area that does not have fertile soil, an area that I can expand kind of wide into, and an area without a lot of pollution. So maybe here, in this sort of drier area where there's some fierce mice, would be a good spot to set up my camp tents. Let me double check the soil fertility. Yeah, so there's no soil fertility that close to this spot here. And that way I can set up the initial tents and not really have to worry too much about utilizing, wasting fertile soil or anything like that. So I'm going to have the two tents face one another in a shared road. And now with that, I can unpause and these things will build automatically because they're freebies. Now, that's the last of my freebies. I don't get any more freebies. And let's shoot.
There are survivors waiting for a signal from the settler. They are cold and hungry, yet willing to work, should the colony take care of them in return. They can be invited in right away or later, in case the settlement needs more time to prepare.
I don't think the integration works. Right? It doesn't work. I don't know how this is supposed to work, but clearly they set it up and I don't know. So, obviously I'm going to shoot the flare because I'm already done preparing. And let me turn off the Twitch integration. I was sort of worried that it was not going to work, and, well, surprise, surprise, it didn't. So I'll use my own polling method for any future decisions. So as we shoot the flare, that's going to signal the first 10 survivors and my first 2 specialists that I chose, which means that I am going to have a giveaway in just a second. So let me reset the giveaway timer. And there it is. The raffle timer's up there. And when that runs out, the specialist will be named after you guys. So there goes the flare. And people will arrive. There, I'll match the color.
Your first colonists have arrived. Prompted by the signal flare, the rest of the group arrives at the prepared campsite. Despite all the hardship ahead, it's time to rebuild and turn this hostile place into a home.
Okay.
We've reached a milestone.
So we reached a milestone. This is prestige. Prestige is sort of a way to measure how successful your colony is. And there's different milestones, like a population to 25, or defeat 10 hostile wild animals, so on and so forth. So these are all the things that you can do. Today, the story mission was unlocked. Up until today, it was locked, and so that's all going to be new to me, which is kind of cool. Very much cool. Dennis Keith, thanks for the resub, and everybody else. I'll get to it in just a second when I'm not busy explaining. So here's all my starting resources. As you can see, I have fibers, clothing, tools, food, meds, etc. The way these stockpiles work is you tell them where the work area is. So for my food storage, I'm just going to tell them to collect these berries. And then for my wood storage, I'm going to tell them to collect from this area, because this area is where my beds or my houses are going to be. So I'm going to want to clear out these nodes of wood so they're not in the way. In fact, my two specialists are going to help me with that as well. So I select them up here and right-click on the resource, and they'll aid me in clearing that. I still have 4 people that are homeless, and homeless people do not like to stay homeless. And then the tutorial is going to tell me to select a colonist. Colonists have arrived. They can carry. They can work. I really don't think this tutorial is going to be helpful to me, but because I'm explaining basically everything. So the important things to do right at the start is to get homes for the homeless. But even before that, I would actually say get a recycler. So what a recycler does is it takes these plastic garbage patches and turns it into usable plastic, recycling the material. Now there's a finite amount of resources on the map tile, and it doesn't so much matter exactly where you put the recycler. So what's more important than putting it near an individual plastic patch is it's near maybe your general storage or something like that. And also somewhere that it's not going to be in the way when expanding your tents or anything like that. So I'm going to go ahead and place my... let's place my recycler here. There it goes. And I'm going to build next, which makes it the highest possible priority. And then I'm going to unpause. And now this is telling me about my resources, which is essentially wood, plastic, metal, concrete, parts, components, tools, clothing, weapons, meds, and there's multiple types of meds, firewood, science, currency, and other, fiber, junk, electronics, etc. When I obtain these things, I'll explain these things. Now, we are building this recycler, and they bring the wood for it, and then they'll get that built, and I'll set the recycler up. So then the other thing I wanted to do is to get some tents. And then after getting these tents up, let me put a dirt road in. And I'm going to start adding dirt roads sort of everywhere because they're free to build and they speed moving up by 25%. They do knock down trees, so you're not going to want to run a road through clusters of trees because clusters of trees are going to be important for hunting and trapping later on. So don't build into forests. Eventually you'll be given the option to be a forester and plant your own forests. And forests will take root in the medium and fertile zones, but in fertile zones you probably ought not to plant trees. You probably should use it for farmland, especially on the hardest difficulty where there's just a very finite amount of farmland. My specialists are going to make very short work of these wood piles. And there we go, we have the raffle, so good luck. The first one goes to Spicy Jazz.
Yes. What's up?
Spicy Jazz 71. And the next one to Face.
How may I help you? Yes?
Now you can name individual colonists, but individual colonists do have finite lifespans, so, and there's a whole lot of them. So I'm not going to be raffling them off. Now, other important things to note is you have your general happiness, and I'm going to pause while I explain this. Welfare is the health and homes and things like that, and then comfort would be if you're providing things like, you know, any of the morale type things, or alternatively, anything that upsets them. And there's random events that happens as well, and then entertainment is at the bottom. And this will become relevant later on. If people are unhappy enough, they will leave your colony. Having them really be really happy provides a little bit of a bonus to reproduction rate, so that you have more kids. Being really unhappy means that people will literally bail on your colonies. So be careful. The next thing I want to do is we have a worker working in this water collector, which is manual labor, and I'm going to try to free that up by putting in wells. Now, you can kind of see the circle for this well. Wells cannot be next to one another, and they want to be in sort of fertile soil. So what I usually do is I sort of shoehorn my wells. Oh, but I can't, or I can, but I shouldn't put a well here because it's too close to this pollution. Unfortunately, a lot of my farmland is polluted. So let me put a well. I'm trying to get 10 water out of this well. Nah, I'm going to settle for 9. I'm going to put a well in there. Oh, that's, again, right next to pollution, so let's not do that. I'll put a well in. I have to wait for it to disappear when I cancel it. It's not instant. Okay. Don't put wells near sources of radiation, because deep oof. You're going to cause a lot of health problems in your colony. So, here we go. 1 well and 2 wells. So these wells here will provide 10 and 11, so 21 water, which means that I don't need the manual water collector anymore. All right, the tooltip is telling me to increase my food production. I can have Spicy Jazz and Fang Face do that for me in just a minute. And here's my recycler. So with the recycler, I want to employ 2 people in it immediately, and then move their work zone to start picking away at, let's say, this plastic patch. And that will produce plastic for me, and plastic and wood are early game your main sources of building material.
All right.
I think, yeah, I'm gonna have Fang Face start killing these rats for food. And a hydrate I missed. Really early on, I tend to use my specialists to do resource collection because they're very, very, very effective at it. And then they also have the hidden bonus of your specialists cannot be radiated. So if you had like this patch of wood here, as you can see, is immediately adjacent to a pollution patch. If my normal citizens harvested this wood, they would become slightly irradiated, whereas my specialists are radiation immune. So use that to your advantage for sure. So now we're starting to get an income of plastic. And we'll be using this plastic to make the tents and to make the wells that I put in. And it's telling me that I am out of, I'm guessing, yes, plastic. So my specialists cannot harvest the plastic. That is something that only a colonist can do, but they can harvest berry bushes, wood patches, and animals. And let me turn on the living beings overlay to very easily show where the animals are. That way I can hunt them. So there are some deer out here that I can hunt for food. And I'm just going to have my specialists be wood gathering and hunting for me so that my colonists don't have to. Now, as far as the colonist overlay goes, it's in the top left. And I have 4 generalists, which are acting as like builders and carriers. So the 4 carriers, they're called carriers, they're the ones that collect from wood. They collect from berry bushes, and they construct. So you're going to need them, and anyone that is basically unemployed becomes a carrier by default. And it's important to have at least 1 carry at all times, because if you don't have any carriers, you won't be able to construct or repair anything unless you have a maintenance, which comes in later. And it's telling me that I have 1 homeless person. These tents supply 3 people with really crummy houses, but 3 houses. And here we go. I can fire or furlough this water collector, and I still have enough water for everybody. And then as soon as I build that next water well, we'll have a water surplus, which is great. And there we are. We have the 4 tents, and that's enough for everybody to be housed. The next project will be food. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to make the executive decision to do trapping. So there's 2 main sources of like meat in the game besides manually hunting animals, which there is a finite amount of on your home tile. There's trapping, which uses forests, and fishing, which uses water. The advantage of trapping is it will also make fibers, which can be used to make clothing later on, whereas fishing doesn't have that benefit. So generally I go with trapping, but actually I go with both because there's an advantage to having a variety of food. So having more than one sort of protein source makes your people less likely to have malnutrition, which is gonna be a little important. Now the trapper doesn't need to be next to the forest, because you can change their working zones just like the recycler, but I'm going to use this forest because this is a nice dense patch of trees, and it's also immediately adjacent to my food storage, which then increases its efficiency, because your trappers will have to run out to the forest to trap and then run back. And in fact, I'm going to create a little road for them. All right, my specialists are currently idle, so let me pick away at this wooden ruin. Oh, yeah, at this wooden ruin, because it's blocking where I want to expand my houses. And we have plenty of meat now. Candy bars and jars and berries and the like. I like how it's telling me use roads. Okay, yep, thanks. I'm already using them. Now I should connect the housing project to this area here. And avoid running your roads through any irradiated zones, because irradiated zones are not exactly healthy for people to travel in. And let me get rid of that excess road. Alright, so the other water well is done, and it's automatically making 21 water. We're consuming 10 of it, 1 for each colonist. There are some events which cause your water usage to spike during heat waves, or when people get sick. When people get sick, they require more water to live. So you don't want to just break even perfectly. So having the ability to throw someone into the water collector when I need an extra 14 water is very important, which is why I haven't demolished this water collector. It could be vital in the future. All right. And once you see the fence laid down around a building, it indicates that they are constructing it. So then the next things I want to make here are medical tents. Absolutely don't skimp on medical tents, especially on the hardest difficulty. Because if your population is dying, you're done. You're just game over. Medical tents are absolutely necessary, and I usually have more medical tents than even makes sense, because sometimes you have plagues or radiation storms, and there's going to be a surge of people that need medicine. And essentially the way it works is people that are untreated for their medical conditions for too long die. You can also die just by being mauled to death by hostile fauna. Around where you start, there's only like little rats and majestic deer. Majestic deer are only attack you if you attack them first. But eventually what ends up happening is once you venture deeper into your territory, there are creatures that can absolutely massacre your colonists. So be careful about that. So one of the things when you're picking a place to place your work zone is efficiency. So over here, you have efficiency. So here, as you can see, I have a hunting efficiency of like 2%, which would suck. And then, or this is technically a trapper, or like 89%. So let's go with 89%. And I'm going to employ 2 people to trapper. So now I have 3 carriers left. And they go out there. It's going to look like they're chopping down trees, but they're setting up traps. Maybe that's not true in version 1.0. I haven't checked, but I remember when this game was early access, pre-release, it did look like they were chopping down trees, and I was like, huh, what are they doing? And I'll probably set up the fishing pier, but not just yet. I don't think I'm going to need a run on food that early. Man, so much in that hype train. Thank you for the hype train, guys. All right. I'll be able to start using the Overland Map as soon as I get a few more projects built. So the other thing you want to add in early on is an outhouse. An outhouse will produce radiation, so be careful about where you physically place it, as it is an irradiating object. So I'm going to put my outhouse here. Sort of like, it's not going to create a ton of radiation, but sort of a way so that when people poop, it's not rubbing off on the trees or rubbing off on houses or whatever. You can upgrade your outhouse later on to become a proper toilet when you have the research for it, and then it doesn't create radiation anymore. And let's say build next medical tent. So production limits is important, and let me demonstrate that rather than reread. So what a production limit is it's a way right here to say, you know what? Furlough when you hit 300 plastic. Don't worry about it going above 300 plastic. I don't need more than 300 plastic. And that way, if I hit 300, these 2 people will then immediately become carriers or fill in some other work role which needs people. And then if I drop below the threshold, they'll be hired back. The next available colonist to be able to be hired. So it's a really good way to make sure that you don't have like one industry that spirals out of control. It's definitely nice and sort of automated, which is great. Okay, 1 more plastic in the medical tent, and that will be built. And then once I have the outhouse and the medical tent, I plan on building the front gate. Oh, another thing to note is there's multiple radio stations here. So maybe I'll try to remember after like an hour, I'll switch up the radio stations so you can hear the variety. And I feel like the game is even quieter than I had intended to make it. So there we go. This wooden ruin is now gone, so it will no longer block the expansion of my
How may I help?
my housing, which is why I had these specialists work there, because they're much faster than the average colonist. They're like 10 times the speed or something like that. And now they're working to get rid of this because it's blocking some roads. The medical tent is now done. It can treat 2 people at a time, and there's scientific upgrades to make it even more efficient that I would highly suggest is one of the first things that you do research in on the hardest difficulty, because if you don't, you'll become a weird, mutated, infected, parasitic, dead colonist. There's a lot of health conditions that you can acquire, and you'll acquire all of them. All right, so here, this is an indicator that the wood spot that the carriers were working at has depleted, and you can just change the location of their work to wherever convenient. Someone is yelling in the camp.
Suddenly, muffled cries for help start echoing from one of the shelters. Inside, a large hole has opened up in the ground, swallowing the poor colonist.
Okay, let's have a flash poll here. I'm only going to leave this up 30 seconds, but type 1 or 2. I can either spend 15 wood to make a makeshift ladder to try to ensure that he is rescued without injury, or I can tell him to try to climb back up without one. This here seems like a little bit more obvious, like a ladder prevents injury, not using a ladder might make them injured. But later on, you get a lot of choices that are a little bit more muddled. So there we go. We spent the 15 wood, and we'll have this temporary happiness bonus. So here, under the happiness meter, down there you can see agreement 10. What ended up happening was everybody was very happy with my choice of building the ladder, spending the wood and building the ladder, and it made the entire population happy, and that's a temporary benefit. It does wear out over time, but happy to have it. Definitely happy to have it. All right, come on, outhouse. I may go for a second recycler, speeding up the process of plastic a little bit faster. Cheers. And then the next big task here, and let me update, build the gate. So the gate, once we have the recycler built, oh, it already has all its materials. Perfect. So let's build the gate. So here's the gate. It's a very, very expensive project, but it allows you to keep bandits out, and when you have the gate, it allows you to have periodic events where people will come to your gate to trade or seek refuge, or bandits demanding with their bandit demands, so on and so forth. So we'll get that gate going. And then as soon as the gate's done, I can send Spicy Jazz and Fangface out into the world to do my bidding, or do your bidding, in a way. And here comes the second recycler. Now, I only have 2 free colonists, which means if I employ them both into the recycler, it does mean that I will no longer have any builders, which means the gate can't get built. So I have to be smart about this and only employ one person or fire someone from somewhere else. So right now what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a little bit of population juggling. As long as nobody is hurt, I will pull the medic out of the medic tent and put them to work in the recycler, and then if anyone gets hurt, I can swap them around, trying to absolutely min-max my pop. So here's the outhouse. Ooh, a ducky. Ash would be very proud. And you'll see that it slowly becomes irradiated. So if we go to the overlay here, there is building health overlay. This is really, really nice to figure out if anything's damaged. Whoops, didn't mean to do that. Let me go back to the overlays. This is the types of buildings. The resource nodes, pollution, berries, plastic. It helps you find things really fast. The water nodes, where your water buildings are. Energy, which I'm not there yet. Living beings, which help to show hostile fauna or raiders if you're being raided. Pollution. So this is the heat map for pollution. It's not just the node itself, it does radiate out from it. And spending time in a middle of a polluted zone, like this medic tent, might be a little close to this polluted zone, but I think it's going to be fine. Hold on, my survivors, my specialists need new tasks. So let's have them collect the wood here.
Your orders?
And I'll go back to the overlays in a second. All right, living beings, soil fertility, which I've already shown you, and then temperature. Temperature, there's really only 2 temperatures. It's like either it's normal or it's cold. Cold when you have winter storms and you need to use burners, which is exactly what it sounds like. It's straight out of Frostpunk, but you need to use burners to heat them up, which can be found here. So initially the burner radius is the orange, and then it can be upgraded to be the wider ring. So I indeed plan to put a burner there, but I'm just going to keep it paused for now. And put a little road around it. Center of this community will be a burner. Now, part of this ring is getting a little close to this pollution, so I'm not going to expand the tents for this tent city all the way out to this pollution node to keep people from, you know, growing extra limbs or whatever. But checking back on the gate here, as you can see, the bottleneck is absolutely plastic, as we have plenty of wood to supply it because my specialists have been collecting wood. So when we have the plastic, we'll be able to open that gate up. Extra limbs sounds nice. Oh, they're non-functional limbs though. They grow out of your forehead. Think like Lila's parents from Futurama. The other thing I probably want to do is let me surround the recyclers and then run a road out to the gate. All right. As you can see, the specialists absolutely
Your orders?
All right.
clear wood
Yes.
piles. I'm going to have them hunt the majestic deer, because by the time the gate opens up, they'll likely be healed from this fight.
What's up?
Someone's been stealing planks.
Someone seems to have been stealing wood from the storage. A few colonists go to investigate, and after a bit of detective work, return with a group of rowdy children, one under each arm.
So, this is obviously, should we leave the fort alone and make the children happy, or should we tear the fort down for a little added wood? Keeping in mind, of course, that I have 200 wood, so we only get 17 from tearing it down. A small price to pay for happiness, or, hey, children, stop stealing wood. It's really up to you. Right? I would let you have a fort, Yoda. Okay. Looks like you guys want me to leave the fort alone. 3/4 majority. And we get 20 happiness out of that. Everybody liked that. Cool.
Yep.
Now, one thing to note is when you kill animals with your specialists, they will not automatically loot them. You have to then select them and tell them to clear the carcass. But they will change from... They will start to loot adjacent carcasses automatically. So once one of these deer are fully looted, they will move over to the next deer. And I guess there's still a living deer left. And it's trying to tell me to go to the living beings overlay. So you have specialists, workers, carriers, guards, children, bandits, docile animals, and hostile animals. We're not going to have any hostile animals yet, because I haven't really expanded. Speaking of expanding, if you click the campsite here, it is now scouted 100%. So the campsite has revealed as much of the map as it's going to. And if I want to reveal any more of the map, I'm going to have to employ the use of scout towers. So what a scout tower does is it will employ one of your colonists as a scout, and then they will sort of, they'll be like cartographers, and they will map out the bubble that you see beyond the tower. I'm not going to use a scout tower just yet because I want all of my plastic going to my front gate instead. And currently, I think the construction of the front gate is a bit bottlenecked by the fact that I don't have enough carriers to do the building itself. So I'm going to close down one of these recyclers, employ 3 builders, and get that gate a little sooner.
How may I help?
And yes, these deer here aren't supposed to look like anything you've seen. All the animals are different than, you know, what modern day society has. They're sort of like a deer zebra hybrid. And there's more over here that I can hunt. Oh, we have a metal node. Nice. It's rare to find metal nodes within your initial campsite scouting. Now, if my campsite was placed here instead, right next to the gate, I would not have vision of this, anything sort of beyond this arc, right? Because that's the way it works.
We've
And
reached a milestone.
milestone, firstborn. Someone just got born. So the two events that I've had, the two random events, have made people happy enough to produce a child. So Samuel was born, and that hits a milestone, born and raised, on day 3. And here's the pollution overlay, and here you can see the toilet is becoming a little polluted. And what ends up happening is once its contamination is high enough, you have to physically decontaminate it. Someone has to muck out the toilets. Oh, and there we go. Colonist Savannah is irradiated, so let's employ a medic in the medic tent so that Savannah, who is here, does not end up a fallout pool. And here, as you can see, once the doctor shows up, yeah, treating. Once the treat percent goes up to 100, she's safe. Alright, my gate is almost done. So I'm going to put one of the builders back into... No, actually, let's not do that. I'm very eager to have the gate open. Okay, they cleared out the deer carcasses, and
Your command?
I'm gonna have Fangface go hunt the next deer with Spicy Jazz. We'll have plenty of venison.
Yes, shoot.
Oh. A new... Wait, I thought the other one was named Savannah. Did she just get irradiated twice? Alright, so the work area for wood... Let's move over here to this wooden ruin. And wood is one of those nodes that you're going to run out of very, very quickly. Plastic and metals and the like stick around a while. Wood, you'll have to start cutting down forests and replanting them pretty early on. Looks like the gate is about 82%, 88% done being built. And then as soon as it is built, I'm going to send my specialists out to the world.
Congratulations. You've rebuilt the gate and gained access to the world map. The gate is now open, and the vast world stands ready for your specialists to explore. This progress has not gone unnoticed, though. Soon, your colony will begin attracting various folks. Some good, others desperate, some tricksters, and those who just want to see you destroyed.
All right. And then it tells you to arm the gate with colonists like this to employ them here so that they guard the gate. Right now, I only have one gate guard, but I don't have any... free colonists, but that won't really matter in a second, as you'll see. Because the first caravan is coming in just a second.
There are survivors at the gate.
So here we go. We have survivors at the gate. And there's a wheel here where it gives you a certain amount of time to deal with the situation. But let's deal with it now.
Ragged bunch shuffles slowly towards the gate.
So the way to read this is these are the supplies that they're willing to bring with them. They have 7 adults, 4 children, and also, if I accept these guys, the specialist Erica will join me, where she is a research specialist doing not terrible damage. And I can either accept them, reject them, or ignore them. If I ignore them, they stay there for the duration of the timed wheel. And it looks like you guys want to accept, so let me then set up my giveaway, because we're about to have another specialist. So now that I've accepted these guys, my water needs have risen. I have the game paused. My water needs have risen. which means that I need to either make another well or temporarily employ someone as a water collector. But I do plan on making another well so that I don't have to keep them forever employed as a water collector. Let's go. One of the things to note is you sometimes get attacked from your backfield back here. So it's not necessarily ideal to put water collectors in your backfield, because what can end up happening is they can get attacked and destroyed, which is annoying, because then you'll have to constantly repair them. So I'm going to put a water collector there. We have a small patch of fertile soil there. And we do have the raffle up, so good luck to you all in the raffle. And what I'm going to do is Spicy Jazz, Fangface, and Erica, soon to be renamed, is going to go to the world map. And I'll show you how to deal with the world map. Now, we do have 10 additional new colonists, and they all are going to need jobs. So let's employ them. And they're also going to need to be fed and housed, etc., etc., etc. So we also unlocked some decoration stuff as well, but I don't care about that. So I need 4 more houses. Thank you for tuning in to Surviving the Aftermath, which originally streamed live on Twitch. If you have any feedback or questions for me, let me know in the comments below. If you would like to catch a live stream of mine, Rhadamant.com has my stream schedule and countdown timers to upcoming streams. Thank you so very much for watching, and a special thank you to all my Patreon patrons and Twitch subscribers for supporting the channel, and also viewers like you. I'll catch you next episode or an upcoming stream. Farewell, everybody.